Well, welcome everyone to 2Qs with Lisa Ward. I am your host, and today our guest is Miss Lee. So, Lee, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hello, I am so happy to be here. My name's Lee Fluker. I am a hospitality interior designer. I have been in this industry, 20 years this May, so coming right up on 20 years. I have both domestic and international hospitality experience. I spent a lot of my career working on like high-end gaming resorts and luxury hotels overseas, primarily in Asia, Macau, Singapore, the Philippines. Lived in Singapore for a while. I have spent most of the 20 years living in Dallas, Texas, originally from the Midwest, but moved here right out of college and have been here ever since. I have worked with pretty much every hotel brand there is, and also a lot of boutique hotel brands and owners as well. I've designed restaurants, bars, resorts. I've pool decks, a 360-degree pool deck, like outdoor deck on a ninth floor of a building. So though I'm an interior designer, it often that spreads to the outside of buildings as well. I really have a bespoke kind of approach to my design business. I want to keep the business small, very tailored. I like to become like an extension of my client's project team. And really the goal being that, I'm not spending a lot of my time on business development, but I'm actually spending the majority of my time servicing the projects I have and the clients I have and cultivating really good, long-lasting relationships with them. So that was something that I was missing when I was working other places and being able to do that. And so that's kind of the main goal of having my own firm, being able to do that.
That's awesome. I had no clue that you had lived out of the States.
Yeah.
The fact that gaming, it was even like just, it blows my mind that that's such a
So
huge market.
well, yeah, it's incredible. The amount of money is just truly incredible. And when the 2008 recession hit, that was obviously a really hard time for everyone, no matter what industry you're in, but specifically hospitality. I mean, I'm in a leisure industry to some extent. And, when everybody's losing their houses and their jobs and they're not really spending a lot of money, going to hotels and taking vacations. So it was not a great time for our industry. And the firm that I started working for, fortunately, the gaming industry in overseas was not affected at all. In fact, it was booming.
Booming.
And so we had a lot of projects there, and it really helped get us through that time period, kind of carried
Wow.
us through. And it was so cool. I mean, it was just such an amazing experience because of the amount of money. Like the budgets on those projects are just insane. Like it was really hard to come back to the real world and have like real budgets again.
I
So,
love it. Love it. Love it. And yeah, and just like the market for that, what the experience is at like just I have questions about that, but we'll get back to that in a
yeah,
second.
for sure. I love talking about it.
Yeah, how cool. Well, I ask everyone the same two questions, and your first one is, what do you want that you don't already have?
Yes. I mean, the big one for me, and obviously this is a loaded question because, there's any number of things that I don't have that I would love to have. But I would say the main focus for me right now is really having like a thriving, well-established design firm. Because I am so new, 2 years, I'm coming up on 2 years having my own business. I'm still sort of in the floundering period of figuring everything out. And, I love it. It's been an amazing experience and I know I want to keep doing it, but it also has been really challenging because You know, there's times where it would be a lot less stressful to just pack it up and go back to work for a firm and get a steady salary and not worry about, you know, crap, am I going to be able to bill enough this month to like pay the mortgage? Am I going to, you know, so, yeah. So, I mean, really just kind of having a business that's somewhat thriving on its own, you know, where that momentum feels like it's going. I think that's for me right now, really what I'm missing and what I'd
Mhm.
really love to have.
Mhm. What was it that you were like, yes, this is it. I'm going out on my own. Like, what was that, moment like for you? How did you decide? Did it take you a long time to do it?
Really, and I get a little emotional when I talk about it because I'm a mom, and I think a lot of moms will relate to this, and that it's so hard to balance like your career and having kids. And my kids are pretty small, and at the time they were, oh, let's see, my oldest just turned 6 now, and my other one's 4. So at the time they were probably like 2 and 3 or somewhere around that age, maybe 2 and 4. And I had been working like I'd worked like a 60-hour week. I was in the middle of well on my way to another 60-hour week. I had to go to a client dinner after work one night. It was like a Wednesday night. I had to go to a client dinner. Um, and I got home at like, 9 o'clock from this client dinner, and my oldest was still awake because he was so excited to see me because he hadn't seen me for basically like 2 weeks at this point.
Oh.
And I, of course, greeted him and was like, okay, buddy. And all I could think about was how much work I still had left to do before I could go to bed that night, and how much stuff I had to get done for the next day and all of this. And I was like, okay, well, you need to go to bed. And he just was excited and he kept coming out and interrupting. And the mixture of like the anxiety and the exhaustion and everything, I just lost it on him and blew up and was like, go, I told you to go to bed, and just like completely lost my temper. And immediately started like hated myself.
Mhm.
And I just think in that moment, I realized like he deserves better. I deserve better. I should not be killing myself, like working this much, 60 hours a week for somebody else's business, for someone else who is at home with their kids right now and, able to have the flexibility to be at their kids' school when they want to be, and I was like, that's what I want. Like, I want to be there for my kids. I want to show up for them. I want to be at the school things. I want to be there when they've had a bad day at school. And it was sort of in that moment that I was like, the only way I can do that is to really work for myself. And it just, at the same time, fortunately, I had just literally randomly this amazing woman find me on the internet via like I think LinkedIn, and then she like stalked my Pinterest or something. And which, I mean, my Pinterest is not impressive. I have ADHD. The inside of my brain is like a horror show. And that's very much what my Pinterest looks like. Not to mention, I would say the majority of my Pinterest is also private because as designers, a lot of it's like project
Right.
focused. So you keep them private. But she had like seen some things on my Pinterest that she liked. She liked my experience, and she literally reached out to me. She's a hotel owner, and said, I have this new hotel property and I want you to design it for me. And I was like, for real? And she was like, yeah. And so she's like, can we talk? And so we had a call. And the first time we talked on the phone for like 2 hours.
Wow.
We're around the same age. She also has 2 little boys. Um, and she's just this like crazy powerhouse, like big ideas, make stuff happen kind of woman. And we started working together. And that was really the catalyst, like for me, that I was able to afford to just leave and start my own thing. And yeah, so that was kind of what spurred it. And you know, it was just, I think, kismet, like good timing. Like that kind of happened with my son. She had reached out to me and I was like, I gotta go for it. I gotta just see what happens. And my thought at the time was maybe not even that like I would start my own firm per se, but that like essentially I could, you know, just work contract for this person, or because she had originally wanted me to actually, she wanted to hire me like full time in her organization. And I said, well,
Mm.
I don't know if I'm ready to like, you know, go over to ownership side or whatever, or what I want to do, but you know, I'd love to work with you on this project. And so, yeah, we started working together, and that was a little over 2 years ago, and we've been working together ever since. And we still, and I've done, now I'm still working on that project. We're under construction. And that should hopefully be open by the end of the year, fingers crossed. But
Yay.
then I'm also working on a number of other projects with her. She kind of just calls me for everything, you know, whether it's renovating her property in Austin or some of her other properties, or even like personal projects. She has a lake house I've been working on. So we've, again, it's kind of that like, you know, um, like what I said when I introduced myself is that I have this very like bespoke, a tailored approach to my design firm in terms of really cultivating relationships. And, you know, her entire project team knows me and they know they can call me. And whether it's the GM of her hotel or whomever, they you know, I know everybody and work with them all, and you know, kind of feel like, again, an extension of their team, which is what I want.
Mm.
So it's been great. So yeah, that was kind of what spurred it. And now I'm just trying to, sorry, my allergies are terrible.
Oh, you're good. That's springtime in
I
Texas.
know. And I had to spend the day at the zoo yesterday with my son. So, um, yeah,
That's
so
amazing.
that's how it
It's like the
started.
universe, you know, you realized something's got to give, and
Yeah.
then you were literally served with this
Yeah.
opportunity
Yeah.
that was like, oh, well, maybe I can do this.
Yeah, really. Because I was terrified, and I had always said I will never start my own firm. I mean, I know how much work it
Wow.
is. I know how hard it is. You know, I mean, I've been in um leadership positions at the firms I've worked for long enough now that like I see how the sausage is made. I understand proposals and, you know, like all the like not fun parts of running a design business. And you know, a part of the other reason why I was kind of burnt out working for a firm was I had gotten to a point where I felt like I was mostly just managing people and I wasn't actually like designing anymore. And so it's been really nice to like get back to actually like designing as well. And I want to make sure that I don't ever lose that again, which is why I also want to keep my business small so that I can always stay really like invested in the design part and be like very heavily.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's like that's what you fell in love with to begin with. That's why
Totally.
you know,
That's the
doing it
passion
for
part.
so long. Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's I'm gonna go ahead and ask the second question. You're kind of already answering it. So what's holding you back from keeping it a thriving business?
Yes.
Um,
Well, I wouldn't say
some of that is
I
the
don't feel like
operational
we're
stuff.
thriving quite yet. So I mean, obviously, I think there's a number of things. I think one of the big things for me is, again, I struggle with ADHD. I think part of that is like really bad imposter syndrome. Like,
Mhm.
despite logically knowing that I have a great portfolio, I've completed many complex, beautiful, high dollar projects. Um, I I have this like voice in my head that's constantly telling me like, oh, you'll never be as good as that person, or you're like a total fraud. Everyone's gonna see right through you. No one will ever believe you're like talented enough to do this. Like all of that inner dialogue that, you know, that your logic brain is like, that's none of that's true. Your lizard brain is still like telling you these things. And I honestly just think that sometimes I'm just, I think I can be a little scared, I guess scared or hesitant to kind of put myself out there and put myself in positions and where, I am sort of promoting myself. I think it's really hard for me to kind of toot my own horn and promote myself. And obviously, that's a key component of having your own business because there's nobody else that's going to do that for me. I have to be that person, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that also part of that is in my industry, not having like a built project yet that's like solely under my name and my business. I have a multitude of projects that I've completed over the years, but they were all with other firms. So regardless of the fact that like I was literally the lead designer working on it basically on my own with like support under me, but not really a whole lot of, guidance or involvement from anyone over me. I still, those still aren't technically my projects. And so though the experience is mine, I think that there's like a credibility factor there for clients as well, that they want to see, that work um essentially has been done like solely on your own. So I think partially it's a little bit of that where I've been just a little lax to like really promote myself heavily because I don't have something. I
Mm-hmm.
can say this is all
That's my brand.
this
That's
is my
my
brand.
full project. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think too, just years of feeling like, just I'm not always kind of feeling a little bit like a fraud, no matter what successes I've achieved or what accomplishments I've had. And just kind of getting over that hurdle and like kind of ripping the band-aid off and, and going after, what I want,
Yeah. Yeah.
really.
Yeah. And that's how you are feeling, unfortunately, is very common for females.
Yeah.
Men might feel this way, they never vocalize it,
Right.
never will, but the imposter syndrome, God, I just want to smack ourselves and be like, excuse you, no.
No.
We
Because
see it for others and we're like,
totally
I'm sorry, you're fantastic, quit it. But we're
right.
our worst advocates.
Absolutely. I mean, if I heard one of my friends talking that way about themselves, I'd be like, do not talk about my friend that way. Like, you are the most, amazing, like, beautiful, smart, courageous, funny, intelligent, badass. Like, I have incredible female relationships, and every woman in my life that I know is just so awesome and doing all the things. And um yeah, and I know that they wouldn't, they would obviously probably say the same to me, but it's still hard to feel like you're just not all like I just kind of I always feel like I'm a little behind the curve. Like, why
Mhm.
am I at this age, at this point in my life, and I don't have this figured out, or I don't have this, these ducks in a row. And I don't know. It's just sometimes it can be almost paralyzing.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Which is so bad.
Yeah.
And I was literally at a lunch yesterday, and this is what our topic was, like rebranding yourself. Having gone through a divorce, having gone through a kid, like, or having kids, like, who am I besides my job or being a mother or being a wife or being a daughter or whatever it is. Um, and it's the self-talk. We kept coming back to it of, we teach kids that yes, you can do it. Just breathe through it. And the innocence of just like, hey, we're all having fun. Your kid coming out and being so excited to see you. Just
Yeah.
that simple innocence of just being in your presence. We have to somehow get back to that state. We're jaded by life, jaded by, experiences, and come back to, no, I am actually really good at this. I have had a legit amazing career, 20 years in the industry.
Right.
You do have an amazing portfolio. It's just not under your brand. Big whoop. You can still talk about all the projects.
Totally.
You can still show off what you've done. I mean, time will come and you'll have your own branded portfolio. But yeah, self-talk is rough.
It is really rough. And I think, I mean, I think, I've obviously I didn't get diagnosed with ADHD till I was like 30. So pretty late into my life. Um, well into my career. And I was like, and the more, all I knew of ADHD really was like, I thought it was like hyper little boys. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't understand that so many of the things that I've struggled with my entire life were because of that. And I think that just learning to like function, like learning like at an older age, like healthier coping mechanisms for actually like being productive and constructive, and taking the things that make me uniquely me, partially because of that, and using them to my advantage versus like thinking of every part of it as like a disadvantage, because
Hmm.
it does feel like a huge disadvantage a lot of the time. I get frustrated that I have to try so hard to do something that for other people is just so
Simple.
easy and like
Yeah.
second nature. And that could be something as simple as making a phone call. Like it's not even like complex things, but it's things that like for me I just struggle with, or that give me massive anxiety, or just sort of like organizing my thoughts. And at times as a creative it's amazing because I have all these things going and like I can like think of these like crazy things. But there's a large part of my business that's not about creativity, that's about productivity. And that's where I struggle.
Yeah.
So I think too, like part of like hopefully my business growing a little bit is, then hopefully getting to a point where I have a small team,
Mm.
and really finding like a couple of people to surround myself that are a good antidote to the things that I struggle with. Because I've had that in my past, like firms where I've had like coworkers who were like such a good, um, like combination with me. They had more of like the type A or the, and I definitely can like, um, can definitely see how I can be helped by people who kind of can like help reel me back in, or like remind me of like the goal, or just different things like that. So yeah, right now
Yeah.
it's just
Outsource the tasks you don't want to do.
exactly. So that's a huge part of it, right? Because like when my brain sees something coming that it doesn't want to do, it's like, well, let's do these other 30 totally pointless things instead. And then shoot ourselves in the foot, because then we'll be scrambling to get done what we actually have to get done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. And then work yourself up even more before you actually do it. And it's like, okay, we just need to
If I had just taken the
not.
5 minutes to do this,
Uh-huh.
I would feel so much better. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Having an admin, oh, I think would be very helpful for that. But it's finding the right person. Um, and then you're back to, managing the human capital side of things, which you may or
Exactly.
may not have enjoyed, but you're getting to select the person
That's true.
versus being forced to work with, you know, upper management or the temp agency that
Right.
brings in not so stellar folks or whatever, the
Right.
scenario is.
Right.
Um, oh, well, I'm excited for that. That should be uh, a fun thing, a fun challenge, a fun opportunity for you. I am curious, in your projects that you've done over the years, like the gaming, what's been your like most off the wall project?
Like probably, I would say like probably the most, well, there's like, we can look at this in two different ways. So most off the wall in terms of like just the craziest like budget and like unlimited like was probably I was working on the Sands Macau, which was the original. So Las Vegas Sands Corporation is, you know, one of the biggest gaming corporations in the world. They own like the Venetian, Sands, Bellagio, not Bellagio, Marina Bay Sands, all kinds of things. Anyways, so Sands Macau was their original casino in Macau when gaming kind of came up in Macau. Or eventually they actually built an entire other, they essentially I can't remember the name for it, but they essentially like expanded the island. So they like brought in dirt and like made the island bigger.
Wow.
I think they call it like reclaimed land or something. But and they made this whole new section of Macau called the Cotai Strip, where they put a Venetian, they eventually put like a Paris there, a Four Seasons, they had a St. Regis, like a bunch of stuff there that but the original Sands Macau was on Macau proper, and I was working on that. So it was kind of an older casino. Like it didn't get quite as much love as like the Venetian, which we were always updating. So I kind of, when I got that, I was kind of given the whole place, and I started just renovating various parts of it because it had been a minute since it had been touched. So we were doing the high limits gaming, the high limits slots, the main casino floor, like all of that. So there's one portion of the casino that it's like a 4-story kind of circular like atrium portion of the casino. And I don't even remember what fixture was there, but it was some like, I think like paper, it was just old and ugly and whatever. So we were tasked with like designing a new 4-story chandelier to go, so a 40-foot chandelier to go in this space. And the diameter of this opening is probably, I don't know, 20 feet or something. So the fixture had to be, you know, at least 12-foot diameter, 40 feet long. So I got to design this fixture, and then I did it we had a manufacturer called Preciosa manufacture the fixture, and they are a company out of the Czech Republic. And so during the design process, they did a 1/3 like mock-up of the fixture for us in their factory. And I had to fly over to Prague and travel to their factory to look at it, review it, look at all the components. It was basically it was all these like stylized kind of abstracted flower forms. So they kind of abstractly look like flowers, but they weren't like, you know, but each fixture was like hand blown glass. And there were just like thousands of these things and just hanging from the most delicate like wire. And then some of them had integrated like light diodes in them. So some of them actually like were lit. So we literally were in the factory, like, you know, moving fixtures, like I got to blow glass with guys who their families have been blowing glass in this factory for hundreds of years.
Wow.
So it was really incredible. And I mean, you know, this fixture alone I don't remember the cost. It was
I
probably,
was gonna ask, how much was it?
I believe it was somewhere around $500,000 for the fixture. And that probably doesn't include the installation, the freight, all of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, so I mean, Preciosa literally sends a crew of people, and they come over, and each of these little components is like individually wrapped. And, you know, some guys for a week or more sit there stringing these wires and installing it. And um, so it's super incredible to see. And yeah, it was insane to just have an idea of something that you're like, this would be really pretty. And I just get to make it. And they're just like, yeah, that looks great. And you just get to like, I mean, it's just bananas. Like, and then I have, then I'm like going back to domestic work and I have clients who are like, how much is that chandelier? $1,000? I don't know.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it's just crazy. I was like, I used to laugh, like, is there anything else that we can gold leaf? I don't feel like we've gold leafed everything yet. Like, I mean, we were doing things like hand painted wall coverings,
Oh, wow.
um, that were, like insane, like cost insane amounts of money, where like they have artisans hand painting on like silk wall covering, and like, I mean, just the most ridiculous display of money that
Of
you,
art.
yeah, well, of art. But I mean, so it was cool too, because I did learn a lot. Like, I've always kind of loved like the Asian culture, and been interested. And we learned a lot about the Asian culture working there. For one, like, just, they're very auspicious. They have like, there's certain colors you can't use. There's certain numbers, like you can't use, this number because it's bad luck, or
Mhm.
but they also just like opulence. And so the people who were like in these gaming rooms, they were very wealthy individuals, and they expected everything to be like over the top opulent. So we had to just like, when you like, there's that new term like quiet luxury. There was nothing quiet about it. It was in your face, like blatant luxury, like spending
Mhm.
just like insane amounts of money. So, and I remember one time I made a comment to the client, like, well, I don't know, that would cost a lot more money to do it that way. Are you sure? I mean, it was literally a single table room. So it was like one gaming table in a private room. And we were doing like a series of private rooms. And I was like, if we did that, it would just, and she goes, Lee, this table makes $1 million a day. I don't care if it costs more money. And I was like, okay, okay, that puts it in perspective for me then. Okay, let's go ahead and do that then. So it's sort of that way of thinking when you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, we may spend $150,000 on a wall covering, but that's literally a drop in the bucket of what this table's going to
She'll
earn
make that in
in
30
a
minutes, no
single
problem.
day. So
Wow.
yeah, so it was pretty crazy. So I mean, that was probably the most off the wall, just in terms of just like the level of like, not even no regard for a budget whatsoever. I
Mhm.
could just select whatever the most beautiful thing I wanted to use. We would do custom, like, I did like a huge wall that was probably, I don't know, 30 feet long by 12 feet high or something, that was all like custom etched glass, edge lit, like, just all kinds of crazy things. But I
Mhm.
would say most off the wall in terms of just like design and just out there is probably the project, my first project that I took with the woman who found me on the internet.
Yeah,
So
the hotel.
yeah, she started her business, like her hotel, her first one's in Austin, and it's kind of based on an Airbnb or like group travel model. So the units like have like um kitchen, living space, hangout space, and then it has 4 or 5 bedrooms with bunk beds, like double like size bunk beds. So you can have a bachelorette party and sleep 14, 15, 16 girls or something.
Mhm.
Um, and she got her start kind of in hospitality with Airbnbs. So I didn't know a lot about Airbnbs or the like vacation rental market, going into I know a lot about hotels. I know a lot about how those work and operate and are marketed and all of that. But so she said, in terms of Airbnbs, what she taught me was that it's really like the photos that you see online that like sell the experience to the guest. Um, and so as long as like things look really good and interesting and exciting in photos, that's going to drive more like people interested in it. And so she has these like crazy ideas, and really pushed me to have these like crazy ideas to do things that are really like fun and unexpected. Whether it be like creating like a custom, like we decided we wanted to do one unit like a 90s, 80s, 90s, like punk rock kind of vibe. And so we were like, let's sit in the kitchen. I want to get like an artist to make like a giant cassette tape that's like all lit and like really cool. And we'll do like this custom art, and we can do like the media wall will be like a giant boom box, and like this you can like sit in the speakers. We'll do like padded cushions in the speakers and people can like sit in them, or like so just like stuff like that where I mean we still like it still is going to be really beautiful and give you like an elevated like experience, but at the same time have these very like experiential kind of fun like off the wall things happening. So that's probably been my most like just like in terms of having a client who's like whatever you can think of, like let's do it, you know, and just like really like being super creative. And she's constantly like, hey, I have this idea, call me. And like she'll have some new like crazy idea she wants to do, whether it be like she's like, hey, in the speakeasy I want to get an old confessional and then put a phone in it and let people record their confessions and their like deepest darkest secrets. And she goes, and then we can have a phone at each table, and when you pick it up you just hear like a taped loop of people like and their like confessions. And I was like, okay, that sounds cool.
Sure.
So I mean she's just always like thinking about things like that, and it's really fun to like work with someone who like, you know, because a lot of times I would say in my industry you have all kinds, but like a lot of times you're working with a client who has acquired a property. They want to complete a PIP for a brand, which is a project improvement plan that like a brand's requiring of them, or they just want to essentially, you know, put minimal effort into like making updating it, and then they're going to turn around and sell it in like a year. So
Mhm.
like they're not actually really like
They
invest
don't care.
they don't care. They're looking at the bottom line, right? So they're like, sure, that LVT is fine as long as it's the cheapest one. That whatever is fine. Like as long as so to like have a client who's like very personally invested and like knows every little detail and like wants to talk about every little detail, you know, it's a really fun opportunity to work with them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to call you out on this.
Oh, good.
When you feel like you're not good enough to be in the room, or I don't deserve this person to be my client, or remember this amazing chandelier and the boombox wall. Like, you've done amazing things.
Yeah.
You deserve to be there. And that's yeah, I wish you were at this lunch yesterday because it's on the space you're in. And something else that you brought up was having a good circle of friends that are also amazing at what they do and bringing your name up in the room when you're not there.
Mhm.
So, like, when you feel less than for some reason, you're in a funk, immediately call that person that's going to smack you through the phone and go, quit it. Quit talking about my friend. Or, we would talk to, turn into the mama bear. Don't talk to my kid like that.
Right.
Quit it. It's that self-talk. And we're all bad at it. I'm
Yeah.
being a hypocrite saying these same things. So I need to do the same thing to myself. But that self-talk, we need to talk to ourselves as literally as how excited you were describing these projects
Yeah. Yeah.
and doing it. It feels so silly.
I know.
It feels so silly,
But
but
it's
it's
so
like
easy
doing
to sort of get,
creating a new habit. Yeah.
yeah, really, because it's so easy to get like lost in the cycle of it and
Hmm.
to not stop yourself. But it is just creating a new habit. It's like shutting it down when it starts and, you know, focusing on something more positive, more productive,
Yeah.
or constructive, instead of, you know, getting caught in this like space of oh, like I'm a total failure and my kids are gonna end up living in our car, and you know, like all the horrible
Yeah.
things like that.
Worst case scenario, all doom and gloom. It's like, no,
Right,
no, no, no.
right.
We're actually fine.
Yeah,
We'll breathe through it. Just had a moment.
for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I would
giving
have been
ourselves grace to
I'm
get through it.
I'm interested in like, as far as like the rebranding thing you all were talking about yesterday, like I do find this very interesting because I think for most women, whether you're married, single, mom, not a mom, whatever, when asked to like describe ourselves, we quantify ourselves down to like something so not actually like who we are, right? Like I feel like when you say like, so tell me about yourself, like for say, I'm a mom, I'm married, I'm a mom, I blah blah blah. And it's like, but that doesn't really tell you about who I am as a human being. Like,
Yeah.
what is my personal brand? Like, I think I need to sit and like spend some time thinking about like, what is my brand? Who am I outside of my kids, outside of my husband, you know, because 10 years ago, none of them existed in my life. It was just
Right.
me, and I need to remember sort of who that person is and remind
Mm-hmm.
myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is so easy to kind of, I think, get caught up kind of in,
Oh, I'm Billy's mom. That's it. That's my label.
yep, yeah, exactly. Because
Well,
see,
and because
kids,
that was
I'm
one of
not,
the examples
yeah.
yesterday. And then once Billy was, I don't even remember, Billy's not the kid's name, but
Once
anyway,
Billy was like, 10 and wasn't so dependent on me,
yeah.
like that's the thing is my kids now, like my son just turned 6, my oldest, and I'm seeing there's like more and more autonomy, right? And it's like, holy shit, I now have some autonomy, but like, what am I doing with it? Who am I?
Mm-hmm.
Because when kids, I mean, honestly, when they're babies, I mean, I'd say from 0 to 4 or 5, especially 0 to 3, it is just like full throttle. They're just so dependent on you for every single thing.
Right.
And then slowly but surely, you start getting some freedom back. Like my kid can now get into the car by himself and strap his own seatbelt into his booster seat. And I don't have to do that. And it's life changing. I'm like, oh my God, I just got like, especially moving into the summer months, I'm not going to have to stand there fidgeting with his,
Uh-huh.
telling him to quit squirming, get that freaking sweating and just, I'm like, this is amazing. So it's like, I have to start right now thinking about like, yes, I'm still want to be here for my kids. I'm still obviously very much here for them, but they're still very dependent on me. But they're boys. They'll probably never be able to find their shoes. So but I have to start, thinking like, who am I as a human again?
Mm-hmm.
So that I don't turn into some, mushroom zombie that's like, well, I was a mom. Now I don't know what to do with myself.
Right, right.
Oh,
Yeah. We talked about social norms. And there is no work-life balance.
no.
Balance doesn't exist. And what works for one person doesn't work for somebody else because the needs of the household are different based on, activities, you know, skill set, all of the different like functioning
So
things
many things,
too.
right? Just like everything.
Yeah. So but we're all our own person and not getting lost in, uh, oh, well, I'm just Billy's mom. It's have the space to have hobbies, have the space to have like me time, which feels impossible, especially when they're really codependent on survival.
Uh-huh.
But once they do go off to school, you've got more freedom. I think that's where at least this lunch yesterday was having a group of women that we can go to with issues. It's like, okay, I've got, this client scenario. Has anybody had that? Or, um, human capital management. Has anybody dealt with this kind of issue? Or I'm scaling my business. I'm a little scared. Uh, I've never hired or
Yeah, I
fired
mean,
anybody.
I
Like,
went to design school. I didn't go to business school. I don't know. I don't know about business. I don't know, like,
but you do.
I mean, I do.
I'm gonna call you out on it.
there's so much that I'm like, what are these people talking about?
Mm-hmm.
And it's like I think too, like I cannot be scared to ask questions. Like in
Yeah.
terms of like I've been lucky that like I also have like a client who is also a dear friend of mine. And he, I know I can ask him questions and he's like, oh yeah, like blah blah blah. And I think just having like, you what you said, just like that support circle of people who are doing similar things or who can just like be a support system or a resource is really important. And I honestly, that imposter syndrome, it's like in every area of your life, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like I've even seen some confidence come from recently, like making new friends. Cause like that's not something we do regularly as adults, right? Like
No.
it's because it's hard. I mean, like you said before, kids will be like, hey, you want to play with me? Okay, let's go. And then it's like they're off and they're friends, and like you're like, oh, they're best friends now. That's amazing.
Yeah, you're in a blue shirt. I'm in a blue shirt. We're best friends
You
now.
like Hot Wheels? I like Hot Wheels. But right, like as adults, I'm like, these people don't want to be friends with me. I mean, the
Yeah.
social anxiety of like walking into a room and being like, why would these people want to be friends with me? And then finding that like relaxing and talking to people and then finding that, oh, I am actually, someone that someone wants to be friends with. And now they've invited me to do this and like, oh, I am worthy of,
I'm
like
cool.
I'm cool. I'm not just a mom and a wife. I'm still cool. I still got it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's like so important to remember those things and hold space for that for sure.
Yeah. 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 And yes. And not just putting yourself in a box. I can only do this because of X, Y, and Z. So yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll send you the link since you are quasi local
Okay.
for the next lunch because it's fantastic. We had great conversation. Um, okay, one last question. Best piece of advice that you have received that's been like game changer for you.
Nice.
Or like somebody that's walked you through an issue that was like, oh, thank you. I needed that.
I mean, I think one of the most simple yet like poignant things somebody, and I don't remember who it was, but somebody early on in my career who I think it might have been my old manager who was like still a mentor, still someone I'm very close to, still one of the most amazing managers I've ever worked for, or people I've worked, human beings I've worked for in my entire life, told me like, don't come to me with a problem, come to me with a solution. And so that is kind of how I like attack everything in terms of like, I've had some difficult situations with clients where, things happen when you're designing a hotel and specifying, 400 pieces of furniture and some are left-handed, some are right-handed, some are this, some are that. Things get, missed or confused or whatever. And, I had a client where we realized like in the purchasing phase, when things were being manufactured, that like we had like accidentally mishanded 30 pieces of furniture.
Oops.
So, and I was like, oh no, how are we going to fix this? So I stopped. I thought about it. I called the purchasing agent. I said, what if we do this? We could, because it was like something with a leg. I said, what if we could just move the leg to the other end? This could stay the same, blah, blah, blah. Can you go back to the factory? Can you ask them how much that would be? And so she did. We got that cost. So when I called the client to tell them what had happened and that there was this problem, I didn't just say, hey, we messed up and now there's a problem. I said, hey, we messed up. This is what happened. This is the solution. This is how much it's going to cost. Do you think that this is the appropriate solution? Is there another solution you'd like me to explore? And they were pissed. They were like, well, shit, you know, because it was going to cost them an extra 15,000 or something. But they were like, thank you for letting me know. Thank you for, you know, coming to me with honesty, taking account and with a solution. And yes, let's go ahead and do that. And, you know, and so it was resolved fairly easily. And at the end of the day, the client was super happy with the, you know, the hotel and the outcome and whatever. But it's just, to me, it's just so important to always come to situations with some sort of a solution, because like the problem's the problem. But, you know, if you're coming at something from a solutions driven point, like then you're going to get somewhere. If you just keep talking about the problem, you're just going to keep spinning in a circle.
Yeah, it's a
So
waste of energy.
it's more constructive. It helps people take things easier, you know, when you come to somebody and say, hey, there's an issue here, but this is like 3 possible solutions. They're like, great, let's do that. And then it's resolved, right? Whereas I know, as someone who's managed a lot of people, when someone comes to me and it's like, I didn't do that, I'm like, this is messed up, and I'm like, okay, so how are you gonna fix it? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm like, okay, so now I'm supposed to fix your problem? Like that, nobody likes that, right? So
Mhm.
I would say that was probably, it's not like anything groundbreaking or earth shattering, but it can just help in so many areas of life and make sure that, you know, you're actually achieving things versus just sitting in problems.
Yeah.
So I think it makes me, like, for having that mindset, like I always feel like a really, you know, valuable team member, in terms of like, I'm ready. I'm not there to like argue about things. I am literally there to like find solutions to fix our problems or to get us all to our end goal. And so like having that mindset and hopefully having other people on the team having that mindset, I always think you know, it makes the process a lot easier, smoother, and better at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, it's reframing the problem. It's
Right.
okay, no, this is not a problem. This is now an opportunity.
Right. Right.
We didn't have the opportunity to look for green chairs or
And a
whatever,
lot of
but
times,
now we do.
well, like for
Whatever.
instance, I mean, I will say, like, you're right. Like the reframing, sometimes you end up with something even more beautiful than, so like a specific hotel project I was working on, it was in a historic building. And we had to, as part of the historic renovation, keep the exterior glass on the building. It was a skyscraper, but the glass was old. It was from like, you know, I don't know when the building was built, like way in the 50s or something. So it didn't meet
Code or
the current
whatever.
codes in terms
Yeah.
of like impact. So like, you know, currently like windows on a new building, like there's an impact test where it has to like a 300-pound load or 600-pound load or something goes into it, it won't like shatter out of the building, right? Well, we didn't have that and we couldn't change out the glass. So we had to have some sort of guardrail on the glass. And so my immediate thought is, are you kidding me? I have these beautiful windows in my hotel rooms, and then I'm gonna have to have some guardrail on the window. Like that's bizarre. Like that's like, how are we? So I was like, okay, how are we going to solve this problem and make it something like that's not what everyone expects?
Yeah.
So what we came up with was designing this open kind of shelving system that integrated the hospitality unit, which is like the mini fridge and the like little tray where the glasses are and whatever. And we designed this beautiful gold hardware, walnut like shelving system that beautifully like framed the views out the window and acted as our guardrail and became this like really beautiful like driving feature in the room, and also solved our problem of just not having this ugly guardrail. So
Yeah. Looks like it was
again,
done
it's
on
like
purpose.
reframing those problems and, you know, finding a solution that's innovative. And, you know, it doesn't always have to be just what you think it's going to be, but like when you get creative and you kind of, you know, always ask questions. Always, I also don't ever take no for an answer in my work life. Somebody's like, oh, you can't do that, I'm like, but why? Like I feel like my 4-year-old, I'm like, but why?
Uh-huh.
Well, you
Yeah.
can't. And I'm like, but why? Cause like, I feel like there's like four, I was thinking we could do it this or that. Well, yeah, I guess. And I'm like, right. So why don't we explore that? Why are you just saying no? Like, so it's like always, always like trying to find that solution and just kind of advocating for it, I think is important.
Awesome. Well, any projects you want to toot your own horn for that are coming out soon, or things that you're working on, like
Well,
volunteer, doesn't have to be work wise.
well, join your local PTA. I'll say that as a PTA mom. Those girls need help out there. And dads, get involved, get off your asses and get involved. Um, Work wise, yes, in cahoots, Nashville, and that's INN. It's a play on words, which is also fun. In cahoots, Nashville is coming hopefully December of 25.
Cool.
So end of the year, very early next year. So be looking for that. Um, yeah, hopefully be working on a few other cool things soon, but we'll see. They're in the works.
Awesome.
So yeah.
Yay. Well, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
us.
Yeah, I
And
appreciate you having me on.
yeah, and hope you all tune in for our next episode.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa.